What if your worst fear became your everyday reality? Imagine being left behind on a desolate island, completely alone with nothing but the sound of crashing waves, rustling leaves, and the eerie cries of unseen animals in the night. No internet, no help, no human contact, just you and survival. That's exactly what happened to one man in the early 1700s. A man whose real-life ordeal would later become the inspiration for one of the most iconic survival stories ever told, Robinson Crusoe. But the truth behind that tale is far more raw, haunting, and extraordinary than any fiction. This isn't just a story of survival. It's a chilling testament to the brutal endurance of the human spirit, and the strange, almost mythical transformation of one forgotten sailor into legend. His name was Alexander Selkirk, and this is his true story. Born in 1676 in a quiet Scottish village, Selkirk was never meant for an ordinary life. He was rebellious, restless, and drawn to the sea like a moth to flame. As a young man, his wild nature made him a perfect candidate for the rough world of piracy and privateering. In 1703, at the age of 27, Selkirk joined an expedition led by the infamous English privateer William Dampier. Their mission? To raid and plunder Spanish ships during the War of the Spanish Succession. But the journey was treacherous. Rounding the deadly waters of Cape Horn, Selkirk and his crew faced fierce storms, enemy ships, and mounting tension on board. And that's when fate dealt its first cruel twist. Selkirk found himself at odds with his ship's captain, Thomas Stradling, over the deteriorating condition of their vessel, the Cinque Ports. Convinced that staying aboard would mean certain death, Selkirk made a desperate plea to be left on the uninhabited island of Masa Tierra, part of Chile's Juan Fernandez archipelago. He believed a passing ship would rescue him within weeks. He was wrong. Stradling, eager to silence dissent, granted his request, and sailed away, leaving Selkirk utterly alone. The gravity of what he'd done hit Selkirk the moment the sails of his ship vanished over the horizon. He was stranded, utterly cut off from the world. His only possessions were a musket, some gunpowder, basic carpentry tools, a knife, a Bible, clothing, and bedding. For the first few days he wandered the beach, dazed, scanning the ocean for ships that never came. At night the jungle came alive with the shrieks of strange animals. Fear, regret, and isolation overwhelmed him. At one point he even contemplated suicide, but nature wouldn't let him wallow for long. As mating season began, massive sea lions overran his beach refuge, driving him inland. It was this unplanned exodus into the wild heart of the island that would force him to embrace survival, or die trying. Selkirk's first stroke of luck came in the form of wild goats, descendants of livestock left behind by earlier pirates. They became his primary source of food and milk. At first he hunted them with his musket, but when his powder ran out, he began chasing them down on foot, even crafting snares and traps. Eventually, he domesticated some, using them not just for sustenance, but also for companionship. The jungle, once terrifying, revealed edible plants, cabbage palms, wild turnips, berries, and parsley. But it wasn't just about food. His greatest enemy was isolation. Rats the size of forearms gnawed at his limbs while he slept. Disease loomed. But Selkirk, ever resourceful, befriended and tamed the island's feral cats, who became his nightly guardians. He built a small lookout atop a cliff where he lit signal fires daily, hoping against hope that a ship would see the smoke. Days became weeks, weeks became months. Months bled into years. Yet Selkirk endured. By the second year, Selkirk no longer resembled the man he once was. His clothes had long worn out, replaced by crude garments sewn from goatskins. His beard, uncut and wild, flowed down his chest. His feet were like leather, hardened by volcanic rock. But inside, something far more profound had changed. What began as madness-inducing loneliness slowly turned into eerie tranquility. The jungle, once a predator's domain, now bowed to his routines. He built more permanent shelters using local wood and grass, situated near a freshwater stream. His day was divided between hunting, foraging, repairing tools, and reading scripture. His Bible, one of the few remnants of his past life, became his anchor to sanity. He read it aloud daily to keep his voice and mind sharp. Yet even amidst this rugged new normal, dangers persisted. One day, while pursuing a goat, Selkirk fell from a cliff. The impact should have killed him. Miraculously, the very goat he'd been chasing broke his fall. Severely injured, he lay in the ravine for days, nursed back by instinct and sheer will. Later, a more human threat appeared. Spanish ships arrived unexpectedly and began searching the island for food and supplies. Fearing capture, and worse, torture, Selkirk hid. Armed with intimate knowledge of the island's terrain, he climbed high trees, concealed under thick foliage while armed men passed directly beneath him, unaware of the ghost watching from above. He narrowly avoided being shot. After the danger passed, he vanished deeper into the island, becoming more myth than man. It wasn't until February 1st, 1710, after 4 years and 4 months, that a flicker of hope appeared on the horizon. 2 British ships, the Duke and the Duchess, approached Mas a Tierra. Selkirk, cautious from past encounters, waited in hiding. But this time, something was different. The ship's rigging looked distinctly British. Taking the gamble of his life, he ran to the beach, built a signal fire, and waved wildly. To his astonishment, a landing party arrived, and standing among them was none other than William Dampier, the very privateer whose original expedition had started it all. The crew, shocked to find a wild, weathered man living alone, listened in awe as Selkirk told his tale. Captain Woodes Rogers, leader of the expedition, was so impressed by Selkirk's strength and mental clarity that he appointed him second mate aboard the Duke. They called him the governor of the island, half in jest, half in respect. Far from broken, Selkirk was a hardened survivor, agile, sharp-eyed, and still deeply spiritual. He aided the crew, especially those suffering from scurvy, by teaching them how to hunt goats and find wild herbs. Selkirk returned to sea with renewed vigor, taking part in raids along the Pacific coast, even leading daring attacks in Ecuador and Mexico. By 1711 he had completed a full circumnavigation of the globe and returned to England. 8 years after he had first left, but he was no longer just a sailor, he was a legend. Alexander Selkirk's unbelievable survival story didn't just end when he set foot on English soil. His tale spread like wildfire, capturing imaginations across Europe. Among those who heard it was Daniel Defoe, who would soon pen a novel based on Selkirk's island years, a novel titled Robinson Crusoe, published in 1719. Though Defoe added fictional flourishes, the heart of the story, a solitary man mastering a savage land, came directly from Selkirk's lived experience. And while Crusoe became a literary sensation, the real man behind the myth quietly faded from fame. Selkirk eventually returned to sea, dying a few years later during a voyage near West Africa. But his endurance, ingenuity, and transformation on that jungle-covered rock remain one of history's most powerful testaments to human resilience. In 1966, long after his bones had turned to dust, the Chilean government renamed Mas a Tierra as Robinson Crusoe Island, but many historians argue it should have been named Selkirk Island, a tribute not to the fictional character, but to the man who inspired it. Because Selkirk's story isn't just a tale of survival, it's a mirror reflecting the raw edge of human potential. What do we become when the world is stripped away? When silence becomes our only friend? Could you survive for 4 years in total isolation? Could any of us? These questions linger long after Selkirk's fire went out, and they'll echo through every wave that crashes on that lonely, forgotten shore.